At 10:47 p.m., my phone lit up the way truth does. Sharp, merciless, a message from my father. "We've decided. You're no longer part of this family. Don't come to any events." No call, no hesitation, just a digital exile. Seconds later, my brother liked the message like betrayal was a competitive sport. I didn't cry. I didn't ask why. I just opened my laptop, pulled up every bill, every account, every payment I'd made for them, and started clicking cancel. By 11:02 p.m., their world started flickering in the dark. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me where you're listening from, so I know I'm not the only one who's ever had to turn the lights off on family. When the screen went dark, the silence in my apartment felt heavier than the traffic outside. The hum of the heating, the faint buzz of the hallway light, it all sounded like witnesses. I sat there, hand still on the keyboard, heart steady in a way that frightened me. Anger wasn't loud this time. It was surgical. For years, I'd been the silent investor in their version of family. The rent that never lapsed, my name. The phone bills that somehow renewed themselves, my account. Every late notice, every emergency, every tearful phone call that began with, "We just need a little help this time," I'd covered it. I told myself it was love duty, the right thing to do. Now I realized it had been a subscription with me footing the bill. I looked around my apartment. Everything was organized, labeled, alphabetized, my coping mechanism. After a childhood spent in disorder, I'd built structure out of chaos. But tonight, the structure turned against me. Every neatly filed statement, every automatic payment felt like a paper trail of my own naivety. I used to think love was endurance, that if I stayed quiet and kept giving, they'd eventually see I was worth keeping. My father had raised me on obligation like it was a family tradition. Small doses served constantly. My brother Marcus was the favorite, loud, charismatic, immune to accountability. Mom, she'd learned to survive by staying neutral. I'd learned to survive by making sure there wasn't anything to be neutral about. I remember the first time I paid their back rent. They were facing eviction, voices breaking over the phone. I was 25, barely making my own ends meet, but I transferred the money without question. Dad called me his saving grace. I believed him. Then came the credit cards, the insurance, Marcus ' MBA program, $22,000 a year, 2 years straight. Funny how saving graces always end up bankrolling their own torment. I rubbed my temples trying to summon regret, but there was only clarity. This wasn't a meltdown. It was a reckoning. I wasn't losing a family. I was auditing one. The last time I'd seen them in person was at a holiday dinner 8 months ago. Dad had criticized my career choices in front of everyone. Marcus had boasted about his upcoming conference that I knew was actually a ski trip. Mom had made a comment about how I was too independent to find a partner. I'd smiled past the roasted vegetables and swallowed the truth. That dinner table had been a courtroom. I just hadn't realized I was the defendant. Now sitting in the quiet glow of my laptop, I opened a new spreadsheet. Date, amount, purpose, evidence. My fingers moved like they already knew the choreography. One column at a time, I was reclaiming years of unpaid dignity. Outside, the streetlights blinked through my window like Morse code. Somewhere out there, my family was sleeping soundly, believing I'd finally accepted my banishment. They had no idea I was just beginning. By morning, my phone was a graveyard of missed calls. Mom, Dad, Marcus, each name glowing like an artifact of something that used to matter. I didn't answer a single one. The silence between us had substance now. It was documentation. The first message that came through wasn't even from my father. It was from Marcus. "You're overreacting. Dad didn't mean it like that. Can we just talk?" Talk, as if the word hadn't been corrupted years ago. I read it once, then again, and realized there wasn't a single apology in it, just manipulation dressed as concern. I deleted it and returned to my spreadsheet. Each line I filled was a memory converted into data. The exact day I'd covered Marcus' tuition, the overdraft charges from when Mom borrowed my card for groceries, the month I'd deferred my own rent to pay their utility bills. Every dollar was a narrative, and every narrative ended the same way, with me cleaning up their wreckage. At 8:30 a.m., Dad finally sent an email. No greeting, no apology, just, "We need to discuss what you've done. You've caused a problem. Call us immediately." Not a word about what he'd said the night before. No mention of the exile, just a directive to resume my role. Problem solver, buffer, peacekeeper. For the first time, I saw it clearly. The family I thought I was protecting had never wanted protection. They wanted a personal assistant. I typed back, "I'm busy reconciling finances. You should do the same." Then hit send. The phone rang instantly. I let it vibrate until it stopped. By noon, the panic started multiplying. A text from Mom. "Can you please explain what's happening with the internet? Your father's having a breakdown." Another from Marcus. "Why are you doing this? You're destroying everything." Destroying everything. As if my silence was the offense, not their treachery. I opened my banking app, scrolled through years of transactions, and felt something transform. The guilt that had been woven into my DNA began to dissolve. It wasn't anger now. It was precision, cold, intentional, targeted. By 2:00 p.m., they'd tried every approach, rage, begging, nostalgia. Dad even posted a cryptic Twitter update. "Some people forget who sacrificed for them once they start earning. Pride precedes the fall." It got 4 dozen retweets, mostly from relatives who hadn't contacted me in years. I didn't respond, but I took a screenshot. That was the moment the balance shifted, not just in the accounts, but in me. For the first time, I understood that silence could be tactical. At 5:00 p.m., I called Lauren. She'd been my friend since graduate school, now an estate planning attorney who specialized in family disputes. "I think I'm ready to stop playing banker," I said. She didn't ask for details, just replied, "Then start preserving everything. We'll make it legally binding." That night, I went through every email, every payment, every transfer, categorizing and storing them like exhibits. The more I organized, the clearer I felt. By midnight, my inbox looked like a case file. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one being prosecuted. By the second night, the quiet had a pattern. The kind that comes before weather changes. My laptop glowed in the darkness, each window a portal into years of unpaid acknowledgement. Rent, insurance, tuition, bills. They'd constructed their stability on my silence, and I was done financing their comfort. At 10:30 p.m., Lauren called. "Everything compiled." "Every receipt," I said. "Every transfer." "Good, then you're not requesting reimbursement, Diana, you're demanding it." She told me exactly what to compose, a formal notification. Calm, factual, devastating. Subject line, "Outstanding obligations, Martinez family account." Body, "This email serves as formal notice of repayment owed. You have 30 days to establish a payment plan before legal proceedings are initiated." No emotion, no ultimatums, just truth in legal language. When I hit send, the silence that followed wasn't hollow, it was breathing. 11 minutes later, the first response arrived. "Mom, let's be rational." "Dad, how could you do this to us?" "Marcus, you've lost it, you're destroying the family." I stared at their words, calm, removed. Every message sounded identical. They weren't shocked by what they'd done. They were shocked that I'd stopped enabling it. At 11:58 p.m., my phone began lighting up like an emergency. Calls, messages, voicemails, the hysteria had begun. "Turn the internet back on," Dad shouted on one voicemail, voice fracturing. "We'll sort this out tomorrow." But tomorrow had already come, and they were the ones in the dark. Lauren's email appeared seconds later. "Excellent. Forward everything to me. We're filing a formal demand by morning." I leaned back in my chair, watching the cursor blink over my name. Diana Martinez. It struck me how many times I'd signed that name to rescue them on checks, applications, guarantees. Every signature had been a covenant. Tonight, it became proof. At midnight, another message from Marcus. "You think this makes you powerful? You're cold." Cold. The word used to wound. Now it felt accurate, essential. My empathy had been a resource they'd depleted for years. I poured tea into a mug, my hands steady for the first time in months. This wasn't vengeance. It was bookkeeping. Before logging off, I opened one last tab, the lease agreement. Their apartment, the one they celebrated finally securing, was still under my name. I'd never removed myself as guarantor out of caution, out of instinct. Now that instinct was leverage. By dawn, Lauren had sent the first version of the legal notice for me to approve. She ended it with one line that made me exhale. "They said you were out of the family. Let's make it contractual." Outside, the streetlights dimmed as morning arrived. Inside, my laptop glowed with a different kind of dawn, the kind made of facts, figures, and quiet justice. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel invisible or expendable. I felt exact. The morning the documents went out, the world looked ordinary. Bakeries opening, buses running, sunlight climbing through the curtains. But inside my apartment, it felt like awaiting a judgment. Lauren had sent the demand package to each of them by registered mail and email, every receipt, every dollar, every signature enclosed. At 8:47 a.m., my phone vibrated. Mom, she never called first. Honey, she began, that practiced gentleness coding every word. This is getting out of proportion. Let's handle this privately. I let the silence expand until she stumbled. It's already private, I said. It's just finally formalized. She gasped softly. You're making your father ill. No, I said, voice level. He made himself ill. I just stopped subsidizing the symptoms. Click. By noon, Dad's post appeared on Facebook, a monument to self-victimization wrapped in platitudes. We raised her with everything, and now she's turned against her own family for cash. Greed destroys families. Underneath, Aunt Christine commented, absolutely shameful behavior. I'd be mortified. Then, for the first time in years, other names emerged. Cousins, uncles, people I barely knew. Wait, didn't she cover your eviction? Isn't that the graduate school girl? The thread fractured. Their narrative crumbled. At 1:22 p.m., an email arrived from Lauren. Subject, additional evidence. Attached was a PDF, screenshots, bank records, statements. Lauren's note read, confirming trust fund withdrawal $35,000. Signature inconsistency. Forgery suspected. I read it 3 times. The renovation, the new appliances. The timeline matched perfectly. My father hadn't just drained my savings. He'd stolen my grandfather's trust fund and forged my name to do it. By evening, Lauren had already filed a motion. The court froze their accounts before sunset. That night, my parents tried every channel. Emails, texts, voicemails, all echoing the same refrain. It was a miscommunication. We'll repay you. Don't destroy the family. The irony made me laugh aloud. At 7:58 p.m., the doorbell chimed. Through the peephole, my father, eyes bloodshot, holding an envelope. Diana, he whispered. Please, we're losing everything. Do it for your brother. For Marcus, I asked. His lips quivered. He's still your brother. I opened the door just enough to hand him the paper already prepared on my table. A copy of the eviction notice Lauren had filed that morning. You'll receive the official copy in 5 days, I said. His face blanched. You wouldn't. I already have. He stared at me, searching for the old version of his daughter, the one who fixed, forgave, financed. That version was extinct. Goodbye, Dad, I said and closed the door. I didn't watch him leave. I just stood in the quiet, breathing in the conclusion of an epic. By the next afternoon, chaos materialized like clockwork. The utilities terminated. The eviction notice hit their inbox. Lauren forwarded confirmation, lease voided, eviction approved, court notified. Then came the tempest online, another post from Dad. She's suing her parents, we're devastated. This time the replies weren't sympathetic. Aunt Patricia, silent until now, typed one sentence. You mean the misunderstanding where you forged her signature? The thread went silent. Hours later, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number, Boston area code. This is Robert Chen from the Greenfield and Associates Estate Office, the voice said. We're administering your late grandfather's trust. We found irregularities in the beneficiary records. I gripped the counter. Irregularities. Yes, Miss Martinez, it appears your name was removed and substituted. The signature doesn't match. The renovation, the granite countertops, every puzzle piece aligned. Thank you, I said. Please send everything to my attorney. By midnight, Lauren confirmed the filing, estate fraud, another freeze, another layer of reality. In the following days, the story circulated quietly through the family. One by one, relatives contacted me, cousins I hadn't heard from in years. They borrowed from us too. They never repaid anyone. You're not wrong, Diana. Every message was a small lifeboat in a flood I'd been drowning in for years. When the official court document arrived, Lauren called. They'll try to contact you again, she cautioned. Don't respond even if they apologize. She paused. Especially if they apologize. The next morning, my inbox erupted again. Mom's new strategy was contrition. We forgive you. Please forgive us. Forgiveness as currency. The oldest manipulation. I forwarded the email to Lauren and archived the thread. By the end of the week, the apartment was no longer theirs. The lease still under my name, terminated within days. Lauren transferred the security deposit refund to my account. Watching the confirmation appear felt nothing like revenge. It felt like equilibrium. Marcus tried once more, a final text. "You won," I typed back. "No one wins when family becomes litigation." Then blocked his number permanently. That night, the city outside flickered, steady, indifferent. I sat by the window, the same one that had once reflected every sleepless night I spent rescuing them. Now it reflected something new, me alone but unencumbered. Somewhere out there, they were learning how to function without me, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty for allowing them. By the time the court finalized everything, weeks had passed in a strange, peaceful rhythm. Lauren sent me a brief email. "Case resolved. Payment agreement executed. Trust reversed. You're cleared." Cleared, the word felt unfamiliar. Their accounts were restricted, their lease terminated, their debts legally assigned to their own names for once. The silence that used to torment me had transformed into serenity. I no longer woke to crisis calls or just one more favor. My mornings were mine again. I purchased a small loft uptown. Nothing extravagant, just clean walls, natural light, and no memories. Ethan helped me move in. He didn't say much, just handed me a cup of coffee and smiled like he understood what liberation tasted like. The first night there, I opened my old spreadsheet, the one where I'd once tracked every dollar I'd spent on them. I stared at the numbers for a long time, then pressed delete. Watching it disappear didn't feel like loss. It felt like emancipation. Word circulated that my parents were renting a small place across town. Marcus was working retail somewhere he despised. I didn't feel triumph, just separation. They were finally living the life they'd constructed without me propping it up. That night, for the first time in years, I slept through until morning. No guilt, no disturbance, just the steady, quiet rhythm of a life that finally belonged to me. A month later, I visited my grandfather's memorial. I placed down daffodils, his favorite, and whispered, "It's finished." The breeze felt like an acknowledgement. Peace isn't loud. It's quiet, steady, earned. If you've ever had to walk away from the people who fractured you, know this: you're not alone, and you're not heartless for choosing peace. If this story resonated with you, explore the Family Dynamics playlist for more true stories like mine. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter.